I think the biggest issue facing Louisiana is the budget, because the budget is the core of everything. Everything starts from the budget and works out.
We've just passed a budget that is, I think, besides being unconstitutional, is fiscally irresponsible. And I think we're seeing the effects of that now with closures of prisons and hospitals.
If we're not being fiscally responsible, then that leads to problems throughout healthcare and higher ed, education, K-12. Everything is hinged on a good, responsible budget.
This has been a movement in progress now for over 5 years, and it's like anything. You can't get you can't get a ship to turn immediately on a right angle. It takes time and progress. It's a pendulum, and we've started to see that pendulum swing. Even
under Governor Blanco a couple of terms ago, started to realize that we were doing some things that didn't make sense as far as budgeting goes and being fiscally responsible and actually spending money in a way that we could sustain over time. And under the Jindal administration, we've continued to fight those same battles about not using one-time money on recurring expenses and just prioritizing our spending.
We wanted to learn more about how the process worked, and when you're looking at a almost $30 billion budget and you get 2 weeks to go over it.
Just in visiting with other folks that are the same mindset when it comes to the budget, we decided to do something about it and commit ourselves in the off-season.
This whole budget reform process kind of just formed out of the fact that a lot of us share that same mentality that we think the budget needs to be responsible and ought to be open and transparent and we ought to have our priorities in order and that we ought to be fiscally responsible. Well, the campaign is to get the message out across the state so that the stakeholders that are involved, particularly higher ed and healthcare, seem to be hit the hardest every time we have a budget crisis.
You can't keep doing today what we did in years past because it's proven to be a failure.
It's a budget that we as legislators can rely on. We don't have mid-year cuts all the time. It's a budget that the public can rely on. It's a budget that the universities and the agencies can rely on.
And still adequately funds what's important to the people of this state. So the campaign is really designed to do just that.
We've spoken to so many different people during the course of this year, and the mid-year budget cuts to higher education, to healthcare, they're devastating.
It's easier to just go along with what we've been doing. The obstacles are an administration that has a lot of power, not just this administration, but the past and the one coming in the future. And so those obstacles are going to be getting our message out to our colleagues, for them to have the courage to take a tough stand and to do what they think is right, and for us to be willing to make a change in the way that we've done the budget for so long.
There always is a better way. We wouldn't be where we are now as a country if we sat in the buggy and whipped the horses while the automobile was being invented.
The most important part of what we're doing would be just that we're trying to bring everybody together. We're trying to do it in a way that is diplomatic. We're trying to share information and also listen back to everyone else, even people we don't agree with.
Really, most important thing is educating ourselves and other legislators and other branches of government on the budget process and on what we're trying to accomplish.
And we're going to do this as a group, and we're going to do it in a very diplomatic way, and we're going to do what we think is right. I think the top budget priorities, in my opinion, and if you go around the state, which we've been doing on a listening tour with the group, is healthcare and higher ed.
The top budget priority, as far as I'm concerned, is education.
Higher education and healthcare, they should be priorities.
They can't come here, get their budget, and get cut twice in a year and then expect them to be accountable. That's a doom to failure from the beginning.
Healthcare and higher ed are the most important things to us. Then let's take care of them first and do it right, and then we're going to work down from there. Well, in a lot of areas I support the Jindal administration. I was a big supporter in 2003, again in 2007, and again in 2011. I've supported them on a lot of efforts. I think they've done a lot of good things for our state. But I disagree with them on the budget.
And I do support the administration, but when it comes to the budget, I have very strong feelings, and I had real conflict with the budget that was put in front of me last session.
If we reform the budget, it'll actually be better for everyone, including higher ed and healthcare, including all the people out there that rely on the state to be responsible. And we believe we can do that with their help and do it in a way that doesn't hurt a lot of people. The budget is the most important thing that we can do in this state, and everything else hinges off of that.
We're kind of running by the old lines of hoping we're going down the right street, and we're not.
The government has to have a good, solid budget to operate.
The budget process of how the money flows through Baton Rouge.
And the more efficient the budget is, I can promise you the more efficient government will be.
And if we don't do it right, it just creates problems for businesses because we're going to have to go generate new revenue. It creates problems for higher ed and healthcare because they're going to have cuts. They're not going to be adequately funded. It creates problems for our kids and our grandkids as they grow up in a state that continually has budget shortfalls and budget crises year after year after year.
We want them to participate in this. We want them to help support us. We need that in order to make this happen.
I want them to understand that it's so important that we do the budget right and we do it now.